Should taxpayers bail these mortgage giants out? John Sauro of North Atlantic Mortgage says we can't afford not to, but Rob Stein disagrees. He is with Astor Asset Management. So, Rob, we had the Fed come in today, the Federal Reserve Board, and say that Fannie and Freddie would have the same access to these discount windows that the Fed has that other commercial banks would have. And, of course, we saw the same thing happen with Bear. Does that qualify in your mind as a bailout?
No, I don't know that qualifies as a bailout. In fact, I don't think that's been confirmed. The Fed's been saying that for the last few months, that they're allowing investment banks.
All right. So what would you consider to be a bailout, and why are you against it?
Well, a bailout would be the Fed actually, or the Treasury, or the U.S. government actually coming in and giving them funding, taking over the obligations of the entity, and allowing the shareholders and the debt holders and the people who are involved in the company to walk away as if they were bailed out. Like if you owned money on your mortgage and I came to you and said, I'm going to bail you out, I'm going to pay your mortgage for you. That's a bailout.
But, John, why can we not afford not to bail them out?
Well, you know, I can't believe we're even at this point at this time with the way these institutions are. And I've never
Well, the way they've been mismanaged, it's not hard to see.
Well, it's not hard to see.
They've been terribly mismanaged. They've been, by the way, OFEO is the group in Congress that's supposed to oversee the management of these companies. Over the years, they've allowed the heads of these companies to get away with murder.
Right. I agree with that. However, the point is, you've got a huge government-sponsored agency here, and you really need to understand that if something does go wrong, we're not at that point yet. I think they have to lose about 35 to 40 billion respectively in order for them to really get into trouble. So we're not there yet. But if we were there and the government did not do something to step in and save these government-sponsored agencies, we would have some massive troubles economically, and they'll have global repercussions.
But how far do you want to go? You want the government to take over these entities?
Look, you know, they hold half the mortgages in the country. They're going to have to do what they have to do because the fears are what's controlling this market right now. They're going to have to calm the fears.
Rob, the fact is that as Secretary Treasury Paulson said today, these groups at least touch 70% of all mortgages in the United States. Can we afford groups that large to go under?
Well, we can. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be a desirable impact, but sometimes you have to cut the fat. And the fact that they touch 70% of the mortgage holders doesn't necessarily mean that all 70% of those people will be impacted if this entity goes away. Truth be told, David, is that interest rates have probably been artificially lowered over the last few years, encouraging home ownership by maybe those who shouldn't have it, loans that shouldn't have been made. And if you get rid of government-sponsored programs and bring it back to the private sector or corporations that could maybe do a better job, you yourself said the oversight and the people at the head of this entity haven't done a good job.
And John,
you'll get a more efficient market.
The problem, John, with these institutions is they're quasi-government. Quasi-anything never seems to work well. Either it should be government or it should be private sector. But these groups are quasi. Is there any way to change that?
I don't disagree with that. But what concerns me right now is the effect this is having on the overall markets. Look at the ultra-short financial index. In the last 2 months, that has doubled due to investors speculating on shorting the financials. It's dangerous right now because this is widespread. It's very interconnected. I've met with banks in other countries. I already know that banks in other countries are having the same fears that we have now. They're pulling back on lending as well. This has global repercussions. So whether or not you believe a bailout should happen is kind of irrelevant. Something has to be done to calm the fears within this market today.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We're going to be hearing a lot about this over the weekend and certainly the beginning of next week. We may have a Bear Stearns weekend. We may not. We'll see. Thanks a lot. Well, to the other factor.